Egypt still pushing. Nile waters, Red Sea, and regional stability. What if one river could decide peace or war for 11 countries? Egypt is once again on the diplomatic offensive, lobbying its neighbors on water security and Red Sea stability. But here's the question: why now? And what does this mean for Ethiopia and the region? I'm Jonas Ambiko, and this is Analytica Today. Egypt has launched fresh rounds of lobbying across Africa, calling leaders in Sudan, South Sudan, Djibouti, Uganda, Kenya, and Somalia. The message: Cairo rejects what it calls Ethiopia's unilateral moves on the Nile. And this is happening just as Ethiopia prepares to inaugurate its massive Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the GERD. So let's break down why Egypt is still pushing. What's changed since last year's Nile Agreement, and what's at stake for the Horn of Africa and beyond? To understand Egypt's push, you need to know the history. For over a century, Egypt has claimed a near-exclusive right to the Nile, backed by colonial-era treaties. The river provides about 97% of its fresh water. Without it, Egypt's 100 million people face catastrophe. Ethiopia, on the other hand, contributes nearly 85% of the Nile water through the Blue Nile, but for decades it wasn't allowed to touch it. That changed when Ethiopia began building the GERD in 2011. The dam is Africa's biggest hydro project, meant to generate electricity for more than 65 million Ethiopians who currently live in the dark. For Ethiopia, the GERD is sovereignty, development, and pride. For Egypt, it's an existential threat. Here's what's new. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati just phoned his counterparts in 6 African nations. Cairo insists it rejects what it calls Ethiopia's unilateral actions, like filling the dam without agreement. But Ethiopia says it's following international law. In fact, since October 2024, the Cooperative Framework Agreement, a legal treaty signed by upstream states, officially came into force. That treaty recognizes the equitable use of Nile waters, not Egypt's historic monopoly. So why is Egypt still lobbying? Because Cairo wants to reframe the issue. It's no longer just about dam. Egypt is linking it to regional security, saying Nile water and Red Sea stability are interconnected. Remember, Ethiopia has also been increasing its presence in the Red Sea through diplomatic and military channels. Cairo sees this as a direct challenge to its influence. This is where it gets bigger than just water. By calling Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, and Djibouti, Egypt is building a coalition narrative that Ethiopia's move threatens not only Egypt, but regional stability. But here's the thing. Most of these countries also depend on the Nile. Uganda and Kenya stand to gain from Ethiopia's cheaper electricity exports. Djibouti is Ethiopia's main trade corridor. Even Somalia is negotiating closer ties. So Cairo's diplomacy might not just be about blocking Ethiopia, it could be about isolating it, trying the GERD issue to Red Sea shipping lanes, global trade, and security partnership with the US and Gulf states. And this is the turning point. For the first time, Egypt isn't only fighting over a river, it's framing the debate as a continental security question. That changes the stakes completely, because if Egypt succeeds, Ethiopia risks being portrayed not just as a dam builder, but as a destabilizing power in both the Nile Basin and the Red Sea. The narrative could shape international pressures, sanctions, and even future alliances. So here's the takeaway. Egypt is doubling down, using diplomacy to push its narrative at a time when Ethiopia is celebrating progress on its dam. The big question is, will Africa buy into Cairo's framing, or will the continent rally behind Ethiopia's vision of shared resource and development? For now, the Nile is more than a river. It's a mirror of power, survival, and identity for 2 ancient nations, and at the stake are only getting higher. What do you think? Is Egypt right to link the Nile to Red Sea security, or is this a strategy to contain Ethiopia? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want more deep dives into Africa's biggest geopolitical stories, don't forget to subscribe to Analytica Today.